Okay, here we are. I am completely wet and out of the shower. I had to take a 6 p.m. shower just to feel alive. It was so hot today. We were working and cleaning and repainting the living in one of my properties, and it just had a ceiling put in, so 2 coats, and I don't know what you call them, my nephew-in-law, anyway, my niece, her husband, my niece is like, she just loves being in Amazon, and she loves fixing things, and she really likes doing drywall, and just she likes to make stuff, and that's her creative outlet, and she does it for a series of special needs homes. And she used to work as a special needs person. For those of you who understand that, it's like a level 4. So she has, and my niece is like 6'6", so she is just a tall, beautiful, full-bodied woman. And I think she's only 6'4". Her brother is 6'6". Anyway, she couldn't come in to help me, so she's like, let me see if my husband will do it. So he came in to help, and it was our first day working together. And boy, did we sweat it out. But he got here at 10 this morning, and we painted straight through. So he got done at probably 3:30 with his part. I was still working on mine, but today was just filled with chaos. So I still had to work a little bit today for my career, and then I had to work on my own life. But this is week 3 out of the 12 weeks that I agreed that I would take no new kind of work, so I can just focus in on all the projects that I have open. And that is kind of the point of this time, is to get my head together, that there's lots of changes, but let me just get my head together so I can do all the things and really get my stuff done. So sometimes it's just dumb stuff, but because I'm just so busy the rest of the time, you just don't get it done. And they're just dumb things that I actually enjoy doing, but they just take time. And time is, right, one of the things that we have so much of. Not much. So over the last week, so I've been taking kind of things for like a week at a time. So for 1 week I worked on this particular sets of projects. Then another week I worked on these sets of projects. So working on classes that I'm willing to teach, making sure I have all the materials, right? So that's a whole week is just classroom. Then another week is really just story writing. There's just so much creativity that has been sidelined. So it's just really coming out, and I'm just letting it do that. Like whatever that is, we're just going to do that. So if I feel like I just need to write and be with a specific character, I will. And I don't know if I mentioned this, but I'm a very good storyteller. And as a storyteller for children, as a storyteller for kids, like I have done this my whole life. I read out loud. When my nieces, who are now in their 40s, mid 40s, and when they were first here, there was this toy called Teddy Ruxpin. And Teddy Ruxpin kind of moved, and you put a cassette in there. And cassettes were everything, and you could make your own tape, and you could tape from radio. So you would like wait to hear a song, and then you would tape it on your tape you would hit record real quick, and then you try to be really quiet in the room, so it's just recording that. And sometimes you would tape over a song, like they were completely, what's the word I'm looking for? They were ragtag, that's for sure. And I loved my cassette player. And I loved that we could make mixtapes. And I loved mixtapes. I would make mixtapes for all my friends. So making a mixtape of just reading to my young nieces was a way that I could spend time with them because they were far away. And so I decided, right, that I would send all these tapes in, and they could listen to them at night or whatever, but their youngest brother was super afraid of Teddy Ruxpin. Like, he's like, no, I'm really sure that teddy bears aren't supposed to be moving. And there's this other piece that ended up happening where the oldest niece would scare the second oldest niece by letting her know that all the dolls were watching her. That was spooky. So the second child, so we had 2 girls and a boy. So my parents always gave those kids dolls. And now I understand why one kid was super excited about it and the other is like, no. And she actually would rather have had building tools. So we didn't pay attention back then because all girls got all girl toys and all boys got all boys toys. So it wasn't until I think they were 16 or 14 and 16, and they would stay with me during the part of the year, and that I finally got the lowdown that Serena had been telling her sister that you better not play with all my toys while I'm gone because all of these dolls are watching you. And then she made sure all her eyes were open and looking at her sister's bed. And she also is the same child that purposely taught her brother the wrong color, and they thought he was special needs. And then when people would ask him a color, he would just cry. And which she just thought was so fun. It wasn't. It wasn't. And, Head Start was new back then. So, like, man, they didn't have the training they have now. But anyway, so going back to the stories. So I would read stories to them when they were very young, put them on a cassette. They could put them in their Teddy Ruxpin. So they have been listening to Auntie tell a story. And I read them the entire series of The Wizard of Oz. I read them the entire series of Anne of Green Gables. I read them the entire series of Little House on the Prairie. And then they really could read on their own. And they were both avid readers. And so as I went through life, my mom went to work for a place called Borders Books, and I became the reading fairy. My friend Rima made me this fairy dress, and it was quite elaborate and quite ornate. And whoever has that dress now, I hope they enjoy it. I am not that size anymore, but it is long gone. But I would go in as the reading fairy and read to the kids at the bookstore. I would go in and read at my son's school. And when we were kind of like going around, we had a minivan. We had a minivan that had one of the where the windshield wiper stuff comes out. It was cockeyed, so it would spray on the car next to us. And so we just thought that was the funniest thing. But while we were riding around, I would forget, and I would like spray somebody in their car. And the girls are like, oh gosh. I'm like, just look like you don't know anything. Just don't even let them know it's us. So while we were driving around, I would make up a story. And I also was going to college. So I was learning Brazilian history because I was going to be writing my thesis in Brazil. So I would come home, and the way that I would manage all these kids and going to school and working full time was that I would just tell the story about what I learned in my history book. So I just would tell the story of all of this Brazilian history. And I had a wonderful professor, like the best professor. Like, we all have teachers that inspire us. This is a teacher who was a great storyteller. So he would just come up and tell us stories every day about the history of Brazil, and you found it fascinating. And he was just a little guy, and he married a beautiful Brasileira, and so he told great stories. And we were all collectively like, oh my gosh. So the kids had all these, I just made them up. So like I didn't remember it, but so then that child grew up, right? Kendra grew up, then she had 2 kids, and they would sleep over too, right? So they each got to like come on Christmas break and, stuff like that. During the summer, they got a week, and, they could have a week at my house anytime. And sometimes they came together and sometimes they came separately, but their mom had said, oh, have her tell you the story of, and it was like the story that I made up for her. That story was Camilla the Queen. And the story that I made up for each of the other kids was totally different. So I was like, I don't remember any of that. So then I had to write different characters because I had written for girls, right? Her and her sister. So anyway, here we are. So when her kids got to be older, we kind of worked on those stories, but they were boy stories. And now they're going to have a baby. So now it's like 3 generations of this whole timeline. So what I did is I just kept making the timeline a little longer. So it's another generation, right? So it came to me when I found out that they're going to have a baby here in fall, that baby needs his own story. I need to finish the stories of the 2 generations previous and kind of gather some stuff. And I have been kind of recording things or, putting things in an order, but not finished in a book. And that's like one of my goals this year, is to get their stories finished. And they're just for them. I mean, it's not like I'm gonna make a bestseller out of it, but it is just their personal story. And that's, I think, fun to go, oh no, she wrote it for me. And for me, that's like my Beatrix Potter moment, right? Of just gonna write these little sweet stories for my family members. And it is fun. It is fun. But, now I got to get some stuff done on those stories. And so I've been focused on that for a week and just set it down, right? Like, how can I get this done? What can I do? So forth. So that, those stories, I found out today that, so I was with my niece. I have to get my mom's parking thing. I was with, my niece's partner, and I talked to him about it, and he goes, oh my gosh, how many times have I heard about this? He's like, I've heard the lore. And I had said to him, well, now I have to write one for your first grandchild. I get to do that for your grandchild. And he's like, wow, that's crazy. And this was the cutest part, where he looked at me and he goes, are you going to let us read it? And I went, oh, am I? I don't know. I said, I'll let you know. I said, I'm going to give it to them, but you might as well do it too. So what that let me know is that I'm probably going to need to print more than one and put all their stories together. Because for Karsten, we did, Karsten had a lot of stories. We have Dos Cobritos, which are the 2 little snakes that, like, true story. But I wanted it to be, and I worked on it last year. I wanted it to be melodic, like a rhyming, and still the story. So that one was hard, but so I set it down And that is my process to set it down, forget about it for a few years, bring it back up. So with my son's books, I want them as a series, but he chose to not have children. So, you know, he's not as interested in them at 35 as he was when he was 8. So we'll see that now we have another generation coming. So maybe I will finish the Dos Cobritos books first and then do the bigger kind of things. So I don't know what's going to happen, but oh gosh. Okay. There's this little tiny green bug. It looks kind of like the size of an aphid. Anyway, it was on my car yesterday. It didn't blow off, and I just let him go, but he's still here today. He's crawling around. Oh well. I am at the hospital, so I'm going to go visit my mom and see what's up with her stuff. I have today's requests. Oh, one I can't show you anymore, but got her a notebook and a little nub so we can charge her hearing aids. So that's the day in the life for me. So I'll see you soon.